My friends always look at me with disbelief when they find out where I work. They say the factory where I work is creepy. They tell stories about a malfunction in one of the factory machines that caused an explosion and a massive fire. Fortunately, there were no casualties, but the factory had been sealed for a long time. My friends don't know that the factory has been reopened by a conglomerate and is operational again. I tell them that I've been working there for a month and haven't encountered anything disturbing, even when I'm in dimly lit places like the warehouse or even the restroom. The rooms always seem well lit 24/7. I admit that when I first got the job offer from the application I sent due to a job posting I found on the factory gate, I could still smell the musty odor that seemed to have spread on the walls. I thought it was an old factory, so I didn't care much. I just wanted to work and make money, that's all. My workplace is a factory that produces glassware. I work in the inventory department. Moreover, the atmosphere here is warm. Colleagues are comfortable and easy to talk to. By the way, I always get the morning shift, so I wonder what it feels like to work the night shift. Until one day I got a double shift because a colleague suddenly didn't come in, so I had to take over his work. I ended up working 12 hours that day. Everything in the factory seemed normal until evening came. As the sky darkened, I saw the sun setting from the window, and for some reason, the atmosphere became incredibly uncomfortable. I couldn't explain what it was, so I went back to my desk to continue with the remaining production. As I arranged some packaging boxes, I expressed my unease. Do you guys feel it too? The atmosphere is so strange. When I expected answers from my colleagues, all I felt was an intense stiffness. Nothing could be heard except the sounds of items being moved. I turned to one of my colleagues sitting next to me, trying to break the silence. Hey, why so serious? My coworker next to me was still busy arranging items. He remained silent and ignored me completely. One thing I noticed was that his movements were entirely repetitive. The same goes for the others. Everyone seemed like machines performing the same repetitive actions. I wondered if they were trained like that. I had never seen employees work so diligently during the day. Are people on the night shift more serious? Then I realized something. None of my colleagues from the morning shift went home, and no night shift employees came in. They all remained in their places. I started feeling that something was not right here. For a moment, I wondered if this was just a dream, but I was sure I was fully awake. I became more and more uneasy and started packing my bag. Where are you going in such a hurry? One of my colleagues asked me when I was packing up. But his voice had no intonation, just flat and so cold. I became even more sweaty, and I replied awkwardly, I'm not going anywhere, just packing. No more answers. I swallowed hard, slowly looking at my coworker. Turns out, he was staring at me, with a pale face, without eyeballs. Just two black circles where his eyes should be. My coworkers, well, those figures, slowly turned their heads towards me, all pale without eyeballs. You already know. The figure spoke again, still with a flat and very soft voice. I immediately grabbed my work bag and screamed loudly while running out of the room, leaving those figures still staring at me with empty gazes. The atmosphere became more unsettling, and all my hairs stood on end without mercy. I ran along the corridor shouting. I just wanted to get out of this cursed place. In the midst of it, unintentionally looking into another room, I paused in my run. Every employee in that room was watching me with empty gazes, also without eyeballs. I screamed even louder, continuing to run along the corridor. Where is the exit? The corridor can't be this long. I kept running, but it seemed like I never reached the end of it. I didn't know, but it felt like I always returned to the same corridor, as if when I reached the end of the corridor, it became the beginning of it. I saw the figures slowly getting up and heading towards their room doors, getting closer to the corridor, staring at me with increasing intensity. Where are you going? It's not time to leave. They emitted that sound without intonation together, creating a horrifying echo bouncing off the corridor walls. Finally, I got tired of running in the same corridor and stopped, bowing down exhausted. Enough! I want to go home! Let me go home! I screamed, pleading to something I didn't even know. We won't allow it. The echo produced by the voices of those figures broke the room. This time, they approached me, all walking faster and faster. It seemed like they wanted to attack me. I covered my head with my work bag and continued screaming as loud as I could, asking for help. I kept screaming for as long as I could, until finally, my voice was gone because I had been screaming for so long. I returned to silence. No sound was heard except for the sounds of night crickets. Slowly, I lowered my bag to peek around, trembling with fear. Darkness. I couldn't see anything as far as my eyes could see. The smell of mold and rotten wood suddenly stung my nose. A cool breeze from that dark room brushed against me. I was confused. Where am I now? From below, I saw a beam of light, originating from behind me. I turned around to see the source of the light. Now, right behind me was the entrance door, which no longer had a handle. The light came from street lamps almost covered by wild trees at the factory gate. I ran out. At the same time, I saw a passing taxi and shouted to stop it. The taxi stopped. I quickly opened the front door and threw myself onto the seat. I just wanted to go home. Take me to Manga Street 16, I said, shivering. My teeth were chattering. Are you Diana? The driver asked. His question made me look at him. He was the older brother of my friend. Back when I was in school, I often visited their house to play with my friend. I nodded to answer his earlier question. What are you doing here? You seem very frightened, he asked. I answered honestly that I had been working at that abandoned factory for a month. I don't know, but I'm worried you might be the fourth victim. The driver's words startled me. What do you mean? I asked in confusion. The driver then replied, Yes, it seems like the story of 3 people who claimed to work there, who a few days later ended up traumatized. Some even went crazy due to experiencing something horrifying, is not just a legend. I was stunned. The driver continued, Now try opening your bag. Is it filled with factory documents? I opened my work bag quickly. When I saw its contents, I immediately threw the bag into the back seat. Both the taxi driver and I screamed. The bag contained old, tattered burial shrouds. The taxi drove away quickly, leaving the front of the dark factory behind. I glanced back at the dark factory, and then I saw something. There was one room in the factory that was still illuminated, visible through a window. There should be no electricity connected to that factory. Suddenly, I realized something. I saw many people behind that window. They were all staring at me with empty gazes and no eyeballs.